at Bayshore. So they are here. They're very dedicated and committed, and they are always active. So the day that we do this, they're not here, but I wanted to let you know that it's not just because they didn't come. There was somewhere that they had to be, and they are trying their best to get here before this evening. Are there any other, I like to offer this as well, are there any other graduating seniors in the house today who would like to come and sit on the front? If you don't, you can, you don't have to. I see Corby, I ain't going to try to call you out, but would you rather stay there? You don't have to. You going to stay? You going to come? Okay, all right. This is Corby Alexander. His family, they've been coming and checking out Mount Rose for a while, and Corby is a graduating senior as well. I'm going to say this first part, and I probably should just leave it. He's going to graduate number 1 in his class. I think that's... Hold on. Stop, y'all, stop. He's being homeschooled. Now, Corby is quiet. Like, when he's here, he's quiet. But if you ever get a chance to talk to him, I want to do this. Me saying that he's homeschooled does not at all diminish or decrease this young man's intelligence. If you get a chance to talk to ever have a conversation, you will definitely be impressed by the way the young man that he is and the things that he says. It's just, he has a quiet demeanor. All three, he and his younger brother and sister, they're all quiet, but when you get them talking about, you know that there's something going on in here that they've been taught. Doesn't always have to come out of here, you know. But very intelligent young man. And so I don't want my joke to diminish his intelligence and the things that he's already been doing and that he is going to do in his future. Let's go to Daniel. Wait, before I give you all the scriptures and before I do my work, I need to do my job. Parents, I need you to hear this. And please don't just throw this to the side. And I don't ever try to presume that I know how to tell you how to deal with your kids. I'm careful sometimes about what I say to parents about their kids because I don't have biological kids. And so I don't want it to seem like I know what I'm doing and you don't. But there is some insight I have into some of the things that your kids do because they are members of this church and I know what's going on. So I would say this. If you have a youngster that you feel like you can't trust with a cell phone or electronic device, follow your gut. If you feel like you can't trust them, it's probably because you can't trust them. Does everybody hear what I'm saying? Okay. All right. Now, it's time for the work. Figure it out later. Daniel chapter 1. Yes, sir. I have to say. So where we're going to start, these are the other chapters. We're going to be in Daniel chapter 1. We'll be in Daniel chapter 3. We'll be in Daniel chapter 6. I know I'm saying this kind of fast, but this Daniel is where we'll be most of the time. We'll also look a little bit at 1 Thessalonians 4 and 7, Titus 2, 11 and 12, and Ephesians 6, 13 through 17. I'll say it again because that's fast. Yes, I'm a youth pastor, so I'll do it 2 or 3 times. 1 Thessalonians 4 and 7, Titus 2, 11 and 12, and Ephesians 6, 13 through 17. Those will be some other scriptures that we will be looking at, but the main text will be in Daniel, chapters 1, 3, and 6. If I give you the verses, we're going to be jumping around, so I'm not going to give you all the verses. You'll see it as we get into it. So again, Daniel 1, 3, and 6, and 1 Thessalonians 4 and 7, Titus 2, 11 and 12, and Ephesians 6, 13 through 17. Y'all, excuse me. I wouldn't dare do this, but I'm going to dare do it. Okay, this came out of order. So I need to read this. This is from DeMarcus. He says, hey, Brother Damon, I know you are preaching right now. And then in parentheses, don't forget to save us some CDs. But I'm not sure if Tiana told you like she was supposed to, but we're most likely not going to make it into town tonight. We're sorry for the inconvenience, as well as thankful for the opportunity y'all provided for us tonight. And would you please issue a public thank you on behalf of me? I'm thankful for everyone that has supported and encouraged me throughout the years, and I love my church family. I think that deserved to be read. It's funny because I didn't take my phone out to look at that. It popped up. I didn't even remember I didn't feel it. I took it out to get my timer out. Let's read the scripture. Daniel chapter 1. Because this right here, this is just another point of something that I'm going to say in a few minutes. Daniel chapter 1, we'll start in the first verse. In the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim, who was the king of Judah, came Nebuchadnezzar, who was the king of Babylon, into Jerusalem and besieged it. Jump to verse 3. And the king, Nebuchadnezzar, spake unto Ashpenaz, the master of his eunuchs, that he should bring certain of the children of Israel and of the king's seed and of the princes, children in whom was no blemish, but well favored and skillful in all wisdom, and cunning in knowledge and understanding science, and such as had ability in them to stand in the king's palace, in whom they might teach the learning and the tongue of the Chaldeans. And the king appointed them a daily provision of the king's meat and of the wine which he drank, so nourishing them 3 years, that at the end thereof they might stand before the king. Now among these were of the children of Judah, Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, and unto whom the prince of the eunuch gave names, for he gave unto Daniel the name of Belteshazzar, and to Hananiah of Shadrach, and to Mishael of Meshach, and to Azariah of Abednego. But Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with the portion of the king's meat, nor with the wine which he drank. Therefore go to Daniel 3. First verse, Nebuchadnezzar the king made an image of gold, whose height was 80 cubits, and the breadth thereof 6 cubits. He set it up in the plain of Dura, in the province of Babylon. Wednesday night, folks, how big is a cubit? Anybody remember? This was just Wednesday night. Where's Caleb? Yeah, about the length of a forearm is about a foot and a half, 18 inches. Okay, so three score cubits is about 90 feet tall. That's how tall the statue was. Verse 2. Then Nebuchadnezzar the king sent to gather together the princes, the governors, and the captains, the judges, and to skip all of this, so I won't read it twice. Let's go to verse 3. So Nebuchadnezzar sends for them, and in verse 3 it picks up, then the princes, the governors, and captains, the judges, the treasurers, the counselors, the sheriffs, and all the rulers of the provinces were gathered together unto the dedication of the image that Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. And they stood before the image that Nebuchadnezzar had set up, verse 4. Then an herald cried aloud, to you it is commanded, O people, nations, and languages, that at what time ye hear the sound of the cornet, the flute, the harp, the sackbut, which is kind of like a harp or a lyre, psaltery, dulcimer, and all kinds of music, ye fall down and worship the golden image that Nebuchadnezzar the king has set up. And whoso falleth not down and worshipeth shall the same hour be cast into the midst of a burning fiery furnace. Verse 8. Wherefore at that time certain Chaldeans came near and accused the Jews. They spake and said to the king Nebuchadnezzar, O king, live forever. Jump to verse 12. There are certain Jews whom thou hast set over the affairs of the province of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These men, O king, have not regarded thee. They serve not thy gods, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up. Verse 13. Then Nebuchadnezzar, in his rage and fury, commanded to bring Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Then they brought these men before the king. Nebuchadnezzar spake and said unto them, Is it true, O Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? Do not ye serve my gods, nor worship the golden image which I have set up? Verse 16. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we are not careful to answer thee in this matter. If it be so, our God whom we serve is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of thine hand, O king. But if not, be it known unto thee, O king, that we will not serve thy gods, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up. Daniel chapter 6, verses 4 through 10. Then the presidents and princes sought to find occasion against Daniel concerning the kingdom. But they could find none occasion nor fault, for as much as he was faithful, neither was there any error or fault found in him. Then said these men, we shall not find any occasion against this Daniel, except we find it against him concerning the law of his God. Then these presidents and princes assembled together to the king and said thus unto him, King Darius, live forever. All the presidents of the kingdom, the governors, and the princes, the counselors, and the captains have consulted together to establish a royal statute and to make a firm decree that whosoever shall ask a petition of any god or man for 30 days, save of thee or except from thee, O king, he shall be cast into the den of lions. Now, O king, establish this decree and sign the writing, that it be not changed according to the law of the Medes and Persians, which altereth not. Wherefore King Darius signed the writing and the decree. Last verse. Now when Daniel knew that the writing was signed, he went into his house, and his windows being open in his chamber toward Jerusalem, he kneeled upon his knees 3 times a day and prayed and gave thanks before his God as he did aforetime. I would like to submit to you for your hearing, for your adoption, and for your application. Stand for it, then don't stand for it. Daniel 1 is unmistakably relevant to this graduating class. In the first chapter of Daniel, he asked for the smartest, he asked for the brightest, he asked for those who were good in math, those who were good in science, your AP classes and your GPAs. Y'all, those were on 4-point scales too, so let's not get that twisted. That wasn't 3.8 and 3.5 on the 5-point scale. That was 3.8 and 3.5 and stuff on a 4-point scale. These jokers are smart, and they are hardworking and smart. So they work at it, and they take classes that challenge them, and then they work in those classes, and then they get the grades and the GPA that you saw. So it's evident that you guys have a lot in common with what was going on here. Not only that, I look at y'all. Y'all some nice looking folks. Y'all really are cute. You keep yourselves up. You look nice when you come to church. You be doing the stuff and doing the hair and all that kind of stuff. Y'all really match what was going on that the king asked for out of these group of Hebrew fellas. Now, if we look at all 3 of these accounts, there are various reasons for the opposition that these boys faced. And let me say this. They were between like early teenage and early teenage and early 20s. So they were young. They were either teenagers or young adults. Different theologians say different things, but none of them were old, and it calls them boys. It says things that let you know they were young. Okay, so we're even looking at the same age range that you guys are. But they faced opposition in this Babylonian culture. And in chapter 1, the opposition that they faced, it was eating Babylonian food. And it was just a general cultural difference. We'll look at a little bit of that later. In chapter 3, the opposition they faced, as far as what they believed, was because of leader ego. It was all his ego. I built the statue, bow to my statue. In chapter 6, it was governing body decisions. It was underlying motives, hidden agendas. So the guys plotted against Daniel, and it was hidden jealousy. So they had something done that would punish him because they knew he ain't gonna give up this God, or they figured he's not gonna give up this God. And so if we're gonna get him or bring accusations against him, it's gonna have to be something that has to do with his God. So, but it was out of jealousy. They plotted against him. He was a Jew. He was a Hebrew fella who had been put over other Babylonians in the Babylonian culture. So they really didn't like it. So let's get rid of this guy because he shouldn't be over us in the first place. Regardless of the reason for the opposition, each one of these 3 situations presented a challenge with the potential for a change. So when I say to you, stand for it, then don't stand for it, it almost seems paradoxical or like an oxymoron. Because how do you stand and then not stand? So we need to look at the definitions of the word stand. We're not going to look at all of them, just a few. The first set of definitions has to do with a stance or a position. To remain firm or steadfast as in a cause. To take up or maintain a position or an attitude with respect to a person, an issue, or something of the like. To have or adopt a certain policy, a certain course, or a certain attitude to adhere to support, in opposition of, or in resistance of. To remain erect or whole, to resist change, to resist decay, and to resist destruction. And then here's one that's not really on the same level with that stance, but I just like it. It says to continue in force or remain valid. Then another set of definitions says it has to do with undergoing or tolerating. It is to undergo or to submit, to endure or to undergo without harm or damage or without giving way, to endure or to tolerate. So when we look at the differences in these definitions, we can see the difference in the statement. Stand for it, then don't stand for it. Example, I stand for holiness. I won't stand for compromise. I stand for God's truth. I won't stand for you telling me I'm not smart because I stand for God's truth. By the way, God's truth stands on its own power. And God's truth stands whether you stand for it or not. Can I make that a little bit clear? I'm going to use some definitions of the words so we can make that statement a little bit clearer. God's truth remains whole. It resists change and destruction. It continues in force and remains valid whether you adopt it as your policy or not. But you cannot resist destruction and you cannot remain whole without standing steadfast and firm on God's word. Standing for God's truth and not standing for anything less will prevent you from falling for anything else. And these boys had all been presented with opportunities to stand or to follow. They had all been challenged. We can't just look at the challenge without looking at their responses, so we're kind of going to go from the back. We start at chapter 6 when Daniel has been challenged not to pray to his God. I'll just go like this. In verses 4 and 5, you don't have to go there necessarily. I'm just going to kind of do a recap. In verses 4 and 5, there are non-Jewish overseers who Daniel has been placed over, and they are jealous and they plot against him. In verses 8 and 9, King Darius signs an unchangeable decree saying that anybody who prays to anybody else other than me or my God that I serve, the gods that I serve, are going to be thrown into the lion's den with the intent of being mauled and eaten and killed. Verse 10, Daniel prays in an open window as soon as he knew the decree was signed. Can we get a picture? I want to get a picture. Daniel hears it. He walks to his house. Now, they didn't have these kind of windows back then, but let's use our imagination. And then says this with his attitude. I don't know the words he prayed, but he says this, Daniel. His actions just said Daniel. What does Daniel mean? God is my judge. So I don't care what kind of decree you put out. The one who is judging me and watching what I do and watching and looking to decide whether my decisions are okay or not is God. And so since God is my judge, I don't care whether you see me do this or not. I stand for the truth of God, and I will not stand for you making or passing a law that says that I can't pray to the God that I serve. So in essence, the first thing he does is prove the truth of his real name. In chapter 1, says Daniel, verse 8 says, Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself. Now, I was trying to find some reasons. I was trying to see if I could find reasons maybe he didn't. I always thought, and this may be the case, I always thought that Daniel defied he didn't want to eat the king's meat or drink the wine because it had been offered to idols. So I looked